is Keys to the Shop, episode 426, Fostering a Culture of Continuous Improvement. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DiFirio. I'm your host for the show, and of course, I'm always happy to have you here. It would really mean a lot if you take time to subscribe to Keys to the Shop. All it takes is a push of a button wherever you're listening to this show right now. That really helps the show out, as does sharing these episodes with people you know who could use the content and the topics that we cover here, the great interviews. Anytime you hear something from Keys to the Shop that resonates, sharing that on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you are on social media, or even just sending the link to your followers and your staff, that really goes a long way to spreading the word about this podcast and the resource it offers to the coffee community. So thank you very much, everybody. Now, I'm really excited because, you know, I do consulting and coaching through Keys to the Shop. Keys to the Shop consulting and coaching is all about helping coffee entrepreneurs and operators build a fulfilling and thriving coffee business through excellent operations, quality, and people. And I've been working one-on-one over the years with many people and many organizations to do just that. Now, in the conversations that I have with my clients, it's always wonderful to see progress in conversation. And then going to Coffee Fest and speaking and doing workshops, I also see conversation happening between people that are helping each other out. And I've always been an advocate of the idea that you hold the key to each other's success. This is why we do interviews on the show. Other people's experiences are so important to learn about because it helps you grow as well. So that's why we're launching the Key Holder Coaching Groups. Key Holder Coaching Groups are predicated on the idea that we hold the key to each other's success. Launching one of those groups actually this September, and I'm taking applications for people to be considered for this first group of 5 people meeting twice a month for 6 months at about 2 hours each meeting, where I am hosting the gathering, and we are going to be helping each other walk through challenges, celebrate successes, provide accountability, and just encourage one another in the pursuit of excellence in operating coffee shops. And so if that sounds interesting to you, I would encourage you to follow the link in the show notes for the Key Holder Coaching Groups to fill out the form. And it'll ask you a bunch of questions, learn more about you, let you know what the rates are for this inaugural group. Can't wait to see your application come through. And if you're interested in Keys to the Shop consulting, just one-on-one for projects that you have going on or any other challenges that you face, go ahead and email chris@keystotheshop.com. So when it comes to the coffee industry, one of the things that we always see is somebody coming out with a new product. You know, there's always a new thing on the market, and sometimes it actually makes a difference, and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it actually changes the way we think about coffee. And the Ground Control Cyclops brewer from Viguera Coffee is exactly that. It's a game-changing batch brewer using SCA award-winning technology to give you access to a variety and depth of flavor in your coffee like never has been seen before. The Ground Control brewer is not just the next level batch brewer though. It also makes tea, batch iced lattes, batch cold brew, which when you think about it, provides a whole nother level of efficiencies in your bar, opening up new profitability streams while also increasing your quality. Check them out at groundcontrol.coffee to learn more. Again, if you're interested in upgrading your quality while also gaining efficiencies and providing new channels of profitability, Ground Control Cyclops Brewer has been doing this for so many people, and it can do it for you as well. Check them out again over at groundcontrol.coffee. It's challenging to find the right ingredients when you are hoping to impress your customers. You are inundated with marketing, inundated with decisions. And one of the things that you can look for is something that has been in the field and proven for a long time as consistent quality and focused on the end user. That is the Pacific Barista Series in a nutshell. The Pacific Barista Series is a line of plant-based performance beverages that is designed for baristas and approved by baristas all over the world. These highly tested and curated products in the line of the Barista Series stand up to the heat from steaming, provide awesome silky texture for latte art, and they also are balanced. So the flavor of the beverage is always focused on the coffee. Customers love the Barista Series, as do operators. Check them out at pacificfoodservice.com to get samples sent to you and check it out for yourself. I think you're really going to be impressed. If you're looking for quality, consistency, and the best plant-based product for your beverages, I think you should be using the Barista Series from Pacific. All right, everybody. Well, today we are going to be talking about fostering a culture of continuous improvement in your business, in your coffee shop. And there's so many things to talk about here. We're going to probably veer into some related territory to other topics. I think you're going to get a lot from today's conversation. And some of this is inspired by the kind of questions that I tend to pick up on people asking throughout Coffee Fest when I conduct workshops and lectures and really see what lands with people and what people are interested in. And one of the things that people are constantly asking and are interested in is not just like, how do I get people to do what I want, but how do I get people to take ownership over the process of just, cleaning and doing the things that are on the checklist, but yes, doing it with intent, doing it with their heart and not just their head, And we want that because we feel that we do that ourselves. And of course, if you're somebody who is an owner, there's no way that anybody you hire is going to feel the kind of things you feel about your business, because there's too many emotions that you have by virtue of who you are that can't be transferred to just somebody that you hire. For them, technically, it is a job, right? And for you, it becomes a lifestyle. Now, there are people who evolve into taking on a bit more of that. It's just more than a job to them. It becomes an identity, or it becomes a calling, or it becomes something like that. And for them, I've been that person, and sometimes I've been that individual who I feel is cared about the environment almost more than the people who were leading me. And that's certainly been the case in many situations across the globe. There are people who work in a coffee bar and the owner actually doesn't care as much as the people because they aren't there as often. For them, it is just a business. So as I say this, I think there is a certain level to which we can fall as operators where we are actually the ones who care the least about the business, but maybe have the most at stake in some ways because of the liability and that kind of thing. So I guess it's a bit of both, right? So the idea that we want baristas to consider this as more than just a job is a tall order, because we do have our personal lives and we do have our professional lives, and we can't begrudge people drawing boundaries between work and life, and they can opt in themselves to take on a little bit of an overlap there. But if we demand it of them, no, that just does not work. You can provide and foster a culture where continuous improvement and excellence is the order of the day, and people will opt into that. But you can't really force people to care. You can demonstrate care yourself, and in return, I think you're more likely to get the kind of care that you think is necessary to really make a difference in your business. And so that is the first thing that we need to talk about when you want to foster a culture of continuous improvement and excellence and buy-in in your business, is that you have to lead by example. So the question is, do you consider your business just a business? Is this something that's purely academic for you, or is it more than that? If you're hoping that people will take on something a little bit more than just the, this is just a job thing, well, Are you considering it more than just a business? Well, that's the first step. And a lot of people would say yes to that. And other people get into the business because they're seeing the trend of coffee shops. They're seeing a lot of acquisition of coffee shops by major holding companies across the world. And they're thinking, yeah, no, I want in on that. Now, I would encourage you, if that's you, to go listen to the 5 Bad Reasons to Open a Coffee Shop episode. And that will help tease out some of these ideas to see if these are actual, solid reasons to open a coffee shop. But you have to lead by example when it comes to the operation of your coffee shop. Are you demonstrating the kind of pursuit of continuous improvement and excellence and buy-in that you want other people to? Now, how does that look for an owner, an operator? Well, basically, it starts with you. It starts with your ability to have self-awareness, your ability to be humble and take feedback, pursue feedback, in fact, not just take feedback as it comes and then thank God that's over. Oh, man, that is just too much, No, you have to pursue it. You have to lean into it. You've got to make sure that you are getting that feedback because it's your lifeline to continuous improvement, to being 1% better every day, as the saying goes. It's the same thing that happens when we want baristas to ask questions. We say, hey, please ask questions. If you don't know something, I want to give clarity to that, because we know people have the tendency not to do that. And then they make decisions that we would rather them have not made. And it's the exact same thing the other direction. So if you're not pursuing feedback from your customers, from your staff, the 2 groups of people that are really the people you serve, right? Then how can you know that you're doing a great job? You can just try to read people and you can interpret the meaning of what they say and do and this kind of thing. But your assumption about people's indirect response to your communication and your leadership is not nearly as accurate as having regular conversations that are candid, honest, and in good faith over time. And so that is one of the first things that you can do is you provide the feedback culture for yourself, the pursuit of a feedback culture for your own role to be effective. Like, how do you win at work? How do you escape the blame game where you're blaming your baristas, you're blaming your managers and the universe and everything else, but you haven't actually sat down with people and, had a regular one-on-one where they can give you feedback in ages. We make all these assumptions and we make excuses, but this has to be the first step. That is the first thing that fosters a culture of continuous improvement. And now I will also say, baked into this idea of improving continually is the idea that there is something to improve. So that doesn't mean that everything gets better and better and better and better all the time. There are some things that are as good as they are going to get, okay? That doesn't mean that you need to just be worried that you're missing something all the time. I'm not asking you to foster a culture of worry or anxiety and suspicion, like, oh man, people aren't continuously improving things. That must mean that we're just settling for the status quo. So you have to be careful with this, that you're not over-optimizing things. You're not creating a culture of fear that people are just going to reinvent the wheel to create busy work for themselves and claim an improvement to something that didn't need to be improved. If you have a dish SOP that truly is as good as it can get, then you can't just say, well, you know what would be even better if we changed it to letterhead. And that would be a better SOP, or we changed it to cardstock, or, whatever. You're spending precious hours of time thinking about these improvements on something that's function is the behavior of the individual using it. To obsess over whether you're using the correct font or weight of paper or that kind of thing is actually going to damage other areas of the business that could use your attention. This is what we talked about in the workshop that I just did at Coffee Fest on systems. you can look at your coffee shop and say, boy, there are certainly a lot of things that we can improve on and systems that we can enact, but what are the priorities? How do you prioritize things? And one of the ideas is, what's causing the biggest bottleneck? What's causing the biggest impact on the staff experience or the customer experience? So you have to have an observable problem in order to have a investment into a solution. So if you did want to improve the font on the dish SOP because you decided to use Comic Sans as a font, or Wingdings or something weird, or you did it handwritten and nobody can read your writing, well, now you've got a function issue. Now you can spend some time switching it up. You can make it legible, make it usable. But there's an endpoint to that until you start to get more business and new dishes and new volumes of dishes come in. Then you can examine it again. That is a behavior of continuous improvement, is curiosity. Again, it's not worry, it's not fretting or anxiety or paranoia. It's just a matter of fact. We are going to examine and be curious and look, can this be improved? And then be honest. Don't be insecure and say, well, we have to improve it because if we don't, it'll look like we're not working. It will damage your business by, again, reinventing the wheel. Have the confidence to say, truly, we think we can improve this. That's great. Perfect. That itself is a great work that you did. So be happy with that. Just as much as if you were examining the SOP for making espresso and you found something that really could improve it, you can celebrate and say, yes, okay, we will do that. Or we found a better workflow for our baristas by using this piece of technology or this new tool, or we rearranged things on the bar, or the customer seating area improved because we arranged things differently. There's all sorts of stuff we could go down the list. But the relief you feel from making a change that makes a difference can also be the relief you feel by examining something that doesn't need to be changed, because that's just kind of a vote of confidence for what you created. So that's great too. Now, one of the things that I think you're probably wondering is fostering a culture of continuous improvement is something that we want baristas and staff to kind of take on as an ownership of their role. And we want them to feel that they're proud of where they work and that they will invest their creative energy into helping us improve things, because truly the baristas know the space better than you do. They know the little nooks and crannies of the bar. They know what works and what doesn't work. They just aren't telling you. And maybe they are telling you, or they did tell you, and you just didn't do anything about it. And so now they don't tell you. That could be as well. But if we want people to kind of take this on, where the order of the day is that everybody is kind of investing into the betterment of our space and celebrating the function of said space as we do it, then we have to make it a conversation. We have to talk about work at work the way that Bruce Tulgan talks about in It's Okay to Be the Boss. Sometimes we will do anything but talk about work at work. We'll talk about family, we'll talk about bands, we'll talk about just random things in the news. But then, oh yeah, nasty old work. We got to go do that. So there's no creative energy invested into it. And your identity as a group in the business is going to be kind of fractured, because people are going to have a culture of avoiding work and running as fast as they can away from it, because it symbolizes something that's in the way of what gives life. So if you want to turn the culture around, you need to show that there is life to be had in the midst of the discussions of and the doing of work. And so that's why you talk about it. And that's why you start to recognize people's advancements as contributing to the overall success of the business. So if somebody makes an improvement or has an idea, that's not just something that you say, oh, well, thanks for the idea, and then shrug it off. In fact, recently there's a post online that was talking about, like, how many times a day does a customer make a suggestion to you about what you should do in your business? And, most people are like, yeah, every day, and they're all terrible ideas. And truly, I've had some pretty interesting ideas from customers. But the thought that a customer might give you an idea of what would be cool or what would be good is actually kind of neat. It's neat because they are telling you something about what they like. They're giving you a signal and a clue. And our habit, whether it's a customer telling us something about our business or a barista telling us something that they think might be improved on the bar, is to basically say, what do you know? What do you know? You're just a barista. You're just a customer. I, however, know. You don't. You're ignorant. I am enlightened. And we basically just shrug it off and we create this culture of denying the input. And so it's no wonder that people just keep their ideas to themselves and they talk about things behind your back and that kind of thing. So instead of retreating from people's ideas, we need to reward them, or we need to at least recognize and thank them for investing their thoughts into the idea of what could improve on the bar. That's huge. That is the seed of the culture, even if it's a terrible idea, even, if it's not doable, if it's not financially feasible. There are lots of ways you can tactfully handle it. But to crush somebody's creative ambition toward your business because you think, well, they're just saying that because they are wanting to improve their lives or something like that. Of course they are. They're a barista. You should be thinking about the fact that every person who occupies a role in your business is teaching you something about your business through that role. They are investing their life into your business. In the barista role, the manager, trainer, and assistant manager, and all that other stuff, it's just going to get better when lots of people occupy it, but you pay attention to how they interact with that role and your business over time with intent, and use that feedback and celebrate it, recognize them for it. And when they have great ideas that actually make a difference, recognize that publicly as their idea. Don't take credit for their work. Recognize that Amy made an amazing suggestion the other day to do this behind the bar, and I thought it was such a great idea, and we tried it out, and that is improving X, Y, and Z. Thank you, Amy. Wow. If I'm a barista reading that, I am going to be like, wow, Amy got recognition. That's amazing. I want to experience what she experienced, which is obviously going to be a point of pride. And even beyond that, when there's an improvement, you can start creating little reward systems. It doesn't have to be big. Somebody creates an improvement to your bar or some part of the operations. You can give a little bonus. You can give a little gift card or something like that. But especially that recognition and the glory of that improvement being publicly celebrated, that goes a long way to create an incentive for people. And this is something that actually was done in Toyota. The Toyota production system and the way of management relied on line workers to create improvements to the workflow and celebrated the people publicly who created improvements to how production would happen, both monetarily and public and socially. And so that is a clue for us. It's not about creating a game. I want to make this very, very clear. This is not a game where you put up a cork board and say, who's going to have the most cool improvements to our bar, gets a $25, Cinemark gift card or something like that. Because then it's like you're pitting everybody against each other. You are creating a structure around something that already has a structure. The structure is your business. Okay, don't create some kind of a goofy game around this stuff. Okay, people are wanting to be serious professionals in your business. I hope, right? They want to do a good job. We have to assume they want to do a great job. And the job is the structure. And by creating a game out of it, I think it cheapens the investment into it, right? I would just not play the game if I saw that there was like, who can have the most ideas in month-long process of improving the bar. Now, you might get some good ideas from that, but are you going to do that every month? You know what's going to happen? People are just going to be obsessed about this in a way that might actually detract from the work. But when you just make it an order of the day, when it's not some kind of a false edifice of competition, when it's just the culture, right? That's different than a competition. When it's just the culture and not a program, then it becomes fluid. It becomes part of the fabric of what you do. And that is way more sustainable than doing something like, a competition. And so we've talked about a lot of things here. The idea that you need to be the person to first foster this culture of continuous improvement by creating a feedback culture around your own performance as a leader. You lead by example with this and lean into feedback and really pursue it and act upon it for your own role. On top of that, there's the recognition and reward that you give people for creating these improvements and giving them the glory for it. And on top of that, let's add to it that the reason why you're celebrating these things is because it furthers the vision and the values of the business. And so if it's just something like somebody rearranged the mop closet because they realized that the highly used items were on top and not the bottom where they're more easily reached, that's pretty cool. Somebody took it upon themselves to do that. You know very well, there are people who, when it's slow, there's that one person maybe who just takes it upon themselves to finally, they're just like, I am so tired of constantly having to fight my way into the mop closet. I'm going to take a slow Saturday morning, take a shot of espresso, and I'm just going to go for it. I've seen this play out several times. I've done it myself. I've seen other people just tear into it, and I'm like, that's awesome. They're doing that because they see, I personally want to reap the reward of not having to walk into that disaster. Okay. That's their reward. They know that the boss is not going to give them any money for it. They're not even going to recognize them for it, but they're still doing it. Kind of sad, isn't it? Okay. And that just happens once in a blue moon. It could be something that happens pretty often. And if it does, you probably wouldn't get your mop closet into such disarray, actually. But the point is that the small improvement that is made by just switching shelves can not only be recognized and rewarded, and at least recognized and celebrated, but celebrated in such a way that it connects your values to the work. If your values don't include anything that relates to the culture and care and impact on your staff, then you need to relook at your values. Your operational values cannot just be aspirational world change type stuff. It has to be more granular. It has to be related to the humans who are in the midst of you, not just the humans who are interacting with your branded far-flung places. Okay? So yes, I love aspirational goals, but what about perspirational ones? That was a terrible turn of phrase, but I'm going to keep it. But anyway, the granular stuff, it makes a difference. So if I say, thank you so much for switching that shelf out, that really makes our jobs easier. It's going to be so much better when we're cleaning the cafe for customers to, go in there and experience something that's just orderly, well done, barista X for that, right? So the idea that we're cleaning our cafe for customers, the idea that something has been made easier, it is somewhat connected to our vision and value of taking care of the space and cleanliness. We're just casually connecting things to values so that when people read that on the Slack channel or wherever you're posting these kinds of things, they are just kind of taking a mental note. You're not clobbering them over the head. It is just something that you are saying. And if you say it often enough, people will pick up on it. It allows them to create more of a buy-in that they themselves will take ownership of, rather than you, again, being so outright and being like, hey, everybody, high five to Garrett for doing the mop closet. That's the kind of thing I want to see from all of you, because our values are to keep a clean place, and it's going to be easier to clean. And so if you want to be like Garrett, then you'll do that kind of thing. That's a little bit too far. And I know that's kind of a goofy and extreme example. I mean, there's a middle ground, I'm sure, but you get the picture. We just need to live this. It needs to be who we are. Let's say in comedy, there are people who are funny, and then there are people who really try to be funny. There are people who are, naturally, they just are funny in social situations, and they're probably funnier than most comedians who are formulaic. Yes, technically funny, but there are people who are just naturally that way. Now, it's the natural expression of humor or the natural expression of your values that makes a huge difference here in fostering a culture of continuous improvement in your business. And this really stems from people who are cared for. So again, back to you. Are you caring for the needs of your staff? Are you truly resourcing them, providing clarity, paying them well, paying them what you can, being upfront and transparent about what you can, being on their side, being their advocate? Is this the kind of thing that you're doing regularly? Do they know that? When that's true, when the basic needs are met for care within the business, right? Then people are more free mentally to take on these types of improvements. And in order for that to happen, you have to care about your baristas in order to care for them. If you're just caring for them, but you don't care about them, then it won't work because it won't last. Or people will see right through it and it'll look passive aggressive. If you're just annoyed, but you're like, well, Chris said that I have to care for my baristas, so if I really want to get those idiots to do what I want, then no. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. That's a heart change issue. That's a you in a cup of herbal tea in the setting sun type of issue that you need to tackle before you enter into this space. So the idea is, again, that you need to actually care about your baristas and care about people. And then your ways of doing these things will work way better. That's called integrity. That's called being earnest and authentic in the way that you pursue these things. So in order to foster this culture, we need to first have it ourselves, not just practice it, not just do the work. Now, sometimes there's a seed of caring that's kind of mixed in with a bunch of I've been hurt in the past feelings. Okay. I get it. It's mixed. Trust in the part of you that actually cares and let that get more of that blood flow and energy from your pursuits. Taking action on these things will help give more energy to that. But if all you've got in your heart is bitterness and angst for your staff, you need to get that right first. For most people in leadership, I'd say it's kind of a mix. And so it is, I would say, just as true about you if you're mixed in your feelings. Like there's frustrations, if you're honest, there's some bitterness and there's some trust issues and all that other stuff. But there is still that seed of caring and that idea of really wanting to be a servant leader. Find that and nurture it. That is just as true about you as the other things. We always want to lean into those positive expressions because it's too easy for us to go to the negative. And that's true just about humans in general. So that is the last thing I wanted to mention here is just make sure that you're entering into these things that we've been talking about with a spirit of genuine care toward the people that are helping you realize the dream of your coffee shop. It truly is a noble endeavor, what we are doing. And it sometimes is lost in the mix of the gritty day-to-day, dirty toilet cleaning, spill wiping, hard customers, people calling out sick, and the challenges, just the challenges, right? But the rewards and the positive and the beauty is all around us, and we can lean into and pull out those examples if we are determined to focus on them. That in and of itself leads to fostering a culture of continuous improvement. So I hope that this was helpful, everybody. Let me know what you think and what you've experienced. Feel free to email me. Chris@keystotheshop.com is where you can do that. I would love to hear from you. Really, truly, it's interesting. The podcast goes out to so many thousands of you across the globe. And, sometimes I hear back from listeners what their thoughts are. And sometimes, most times not. That's the life of a podcaster as I stare into a foam panel in front of me right now. But I do love hearing from you about, how you've experienced the show, even things that I can improve on and topics maybe that we haven't covered on the show. Always open to those conversations. So again, reach out, chris@keystotheshop.com. And also don't forget about this coaching group, Key Holder Coaching, where you hold the key to each other's success as operators. And these mastermind groups, if you will, or these accountability groups, or however you want to say it, this is a coaching group where we coach each other. And I will be hosting this starting in September. There's going to be more than one of these. But if you want to start on this process with this first group at an introductory rate, then please go and find the link in the show notes for the Key Holder Coaching Group, or just reach out. You could do that on Instagram, direct message me at Keys to the Shop, or just chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, I mentioned Coffee Fest way earlier in this conversation, but the last show of 2023 is going to be in Orlando, Florida in November. And I definitely think that if you have not checked out Coffee Fest, you really need to. coffeefest.com. When you get there, explore the educational content, explore the history of this show. It's 30 years of operating not just a trade show, let's say. It's an epicenter for education and resourcing. Lectures, trainings, workshops, panel discussions, community, conversation. This is transformational, and it's been helping transform the industry by providing resources like that, as well as the trade show with tons of great vendors that you get to have these conversations with as well for over 30 years. And I've been doing Coffee Fest since 2004 and providing, trainings and lectures and that kind of thing, and some workshops as well. So if you want to learn more, go to coffeefest.com. Use the code KEYS, KEYS, for 50% off general admission for Coffee Fest. And I hope to see you there. If you're going to be in Orlando, please make a note to say hello. I always love meeting listeners. So if you want to build a great coffee shop, then I think a great resource is Coffee Fest. Check them out again over at coffeefest.com. And with that is the end of our show today, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of it and for supporting the show over these years. It's been a wonderful journey. Glad to be on it with you. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.